JuJu Watkins, great basketball player, best player in the world. Sadly to say, as everyone has heard, is tore ACL, and she is immediately going in surgery and going to be starting her rehabilitation. JuJu Watkins is best player in the world. Will come back bigger, stronger, and faster. And when I looked at it and I saw the play, and I've heard a lot of people make a lot of comments, and I heard Leah Boston come back and say dirty play, and that's not a dirty play, and let it be. I mean, this thing here is, one thing I do know about women's basketball and the WNBA, and they're trying to bleed it into the NCAA. But when it comes to this game of basketball, and when it comes to JuJu Watkins, right? JuJu Watkins, not only the best basketball player in the world, is bigger than the game of basketball. The Watkins family, you're talking about Watts, right? LA, we don't, well, in California, we operate from a different perspective, right? We don't really take that position and try to make something as to whether or not a coach did the right thing, or did this happen, or the fans were feeling this the right way or the wrong way. The bottom line is this: prayers go up, blessings come down. JuJu Watkins was injured in a basketball play, and it actually happened. The injury happened even before the contact, if I looked at the play. But I have a lot of people have come up and said some things about Gottlieb, right? The coach of USC, and understanding that the Gottlieb family is just the top of the line. You're talking about an Ivy League family. You're talking about somebody that has coached the game of women's basketball. And you're talking about somebody that actually knows, and actually those players enjoy playing for. Is there a next person up for USC women's basketball that will shine? Maybe even end up being the number one pick in the draft, Kiki. There's no doubt about it. But folks, I want to talk to you about a little bit about something here. And a lot of times you'll hear me express it. I always tell you it's my opinion, but if it turns to truth, I'm giving you the facts before it happened. And that's kind of how it works. And a lot of you don't have to agree with me, and you really don't have to care about my opinion. But I'll tell you this: when he gets involved, you get to the media, right? And one of the things I like to do is I like to report the play. Okay, not necessarily get into personal attacks on players, personal attacks on individuals, because at the end of the day, you really don't know those individuals, right? And in the second part of the day, you're speaking on a context that you're not even involved in, right? So giving advice, let me tell you something, giving advice to Gottlieb, to how to coach JuJu Watkins, okay? Money Mike's got a saying. I'm going to bring it back, and I bring it back because of the WNBA, and I listen. And I got a lot of colleagues, right? You got a lot of colleagues. I call them colleagues because they report it, right? They do a good job. They just got a personal opinion. And, you can go too far, right? Because with Caitlin, it's off limits, but it's like with every other player in the WNBA, it's on limits, right? Say whatever you want to say. But when I look at this game of basketball, and I look at it correctly, and I look at a player, and I look at California, you have to understand, for the media, right? For the media in California, we operate under a different set of rules, because here in California, players, okay, coaches, okay, as you saw a lot, LeBron James approach Stephen A. Smith. That's what we call a pull-up, right? You get out of line in the media, the player will pull up on you, right? They'll really get into you, right? But talking about somebody or talking about a player and trying to really talk about a player's injury and what should have been done and how they're going to have problems. You know what Money Mike called that? I call that stupid, right? I'm going to introduce everybody a word, and you'll get it from me a month, 2 months in advance, right? But don't be stupid, right? Don't get here and start telling you can give a coach advice of how to coach the USC Trojans, right? Because that's called being stupid. What's stupid? It's dumb and it's stupid, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't have somebody put their career out there. You have no accolades even close to their career. And unless you know Gottlieb, like if you know Gottlieb coached at Santa Barbara, if you know Gottlieb coached at Cal, right? If you know Gottlieb spent time in the NBA, and you know that Gottlieb is now coaching the USC Trojans, right? You got to have an understanding of the background, right? Because out here, it's a little different. In California, it's a little different. It's not that you really take a bashing or a personal action against a player because you feel that you have enough knowledge, which is not even close to the knowledge, right? JuJu Watkins is the best basketball player in the world. And if you want to define that, I mean, we don't have a problem defining it. It takes me about 2 seconds because she's coming back bigger, stronger, and faster. So let me tell you why JuJu Watkins is best in the world. JuJu Watkins can play the 1, can play the 2, can play the 3, and can play the 4, right? You got to be that good to play all those positions, have a big enough body to do it, right? She's a downhill player. She's a strong player. And JuJu Watkins plays for more than the game of basketball. Basketball is an entity to JuJu Watkins. Her family legacy outstands all of that. Her grandfather stood at the Watts riots and stood and helped individuals get jobs after that Watts riot, after it was tore down. LA is not the place to play with. California is not the place to play with. California and JuJu Watkins' roots are in LA. The NCAA USC Trojans, right? Stayed home as a player, carried her family's legacy, right? And you look at it, right? And you look at how that means and what does it do. You look at Cheryl Miller, right? You look at Cheryl Miller, and Cheryl Miller is a USC Trojan, okay? That's a high-class act right there. And why am I approaching it this way? Because some people feel that they've got enough ability to talk about a player that's in the actual NCAA and is actually a great player, and everybody knows it, but try to find dirt of what it can be. JuJu's not about that. I know this game of basketball is important to a lot of people, and it means a lot to you to have everything or have the record or have this. JuJu Watkins is above all of that, right? She's above all of that. Her legacy, her family, it's just the way it works, folks. And a lot of times people say things in the media. I go back to Stephen A. You got to be cautious because California is not different from it. California is different from any other state. Right? You say some things in California, people will find you out here, right? And you don't want that kind of environment because it's personal now. And that's why I always sit back and I say, wow, you know, the WNBA is great, but JuJu Watkins, because she's bigger than the game of basketball, so the WNBA is not ready for me. Right? And you got to look at Chelsea Gray. I mean, I imagine Chelsea might have been one of the first phone calls because Chelsea Gray is torn her ACLs. Players have done it. The medical is so good now, they come back bigger, faster, stronger. But it's not about a record with JuJu. JuJu could get 50 points a game and break the scoring record all time. It really doesn't matter. You know what matters to JuJu is what she does, how her parents have raised her, and what type of individual JuJu Watkins is, and how everyone congregates around her. Other states may have better players, but in LA, JuJu Watkins, that's homegrown, and nobody can touch JuJu Watkins. You can forget about it. I wouldn't even think about it if you don't know LA and all that's going on in LA right now. Now's not the time to start telling people about JuJu Watkins. Respect it. Be respectful, respect the game, and don't get involved in talking about a player you know nothing about. I always say in the media, at one point, this is going to clean up, and I know it will soon and fast. As a media, we're supposed to report the play. We're not supposed to go personal. We're not supposed to take it in there and make it about something. And why am I saying this? I think the WNBA players, okay, I've had a hard time. I think JuJu Watkins made a great decision. Unrivaled. I think Unrivaled is a success for the women, the African-American women, and their intellectual property. This thing has gotten way out of hand. You got way out of hand. If you want to sit back and you want to get on here and you want to have a certain culture, okay, but you got to understand something. Here, it's a little different in California. Okay, we believe in sunshine. I mean, sometimes I almost think people don't get enough vitamin D, right? Because, I mean, when you're in certain places, you don't see sun for 75% of the year. Out here, we see sun 80, 90% of the year. So our vitamin D really helps us. But at the end of the day, I say this again, JuJu Watkins is off limits. If you think you can have fun with JuJu Watkins, you think you can educate how JuJu Watkins can play, if you think that you know what JuJu Watkins is going to do in the WNBA and how it all is going to go, and you're so far off, right? It's just like the attendance and people saying these sellouts. And you know, I feel for Caitlin, right? I really do. I mean, because Kaylin's got so much pressure on her. And you know what? You got to realize something about the WNBA. The WNBA is 100% injury rate. That means every player that plays in the WNBA is eventually going to have an injury. Okay, some players, it comes down to your test and willamette of can you come back? Yes, I can. And that's what JuJu Watkins is. I will tell you this flat out, JuJu Watkins is bigger than the game of women's basketball. The Watkins family stands for something bigger than players running between the court. The Watkins family is a legacy. JuJu Watkins is a legacy. JuJu Watkins is like Kobe Bryant in LA, right? That LA was the baby. Kobe came in. JuJu Watkins is that next baby. How it ends, I don't know. But I do know this, there's no greater basketball player and there's no greater person, okay, that walks in the city of LA than JuJu Watkins. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, and I'm just here to tell you life in LA, in California, it's JuJu Watkins is the best in the world, and that's hand down, okay? And you have to put that in perspective, and that's no different. Maya Moore was the best in the world. Candace Parker was the best in the world, and Cheryl Miller was the best in the world. So all of those know who JuJu Watkins is and what she stands for, and JuJu Watkins stands for one thing: excellence. And anything below that, she does not want to be a part of. She does not want to engage in it, okay? She is a woman, an African-American woman that are going into success and in getting the job done. And that's what I believe. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We thank you for joining us, and we just want to tell you all things are possible to those who believe.